Heavenly Father, thank you for the Bills being in the playoffs. God bless the Bills and the Bills Mafia. Amen. Go Bills!
It's the Shatkin First Down Pregame Show, presented by Dr. Todd Shatkin and the Aesthetic Associates Center, with your hosts, Rich Gaenzler and Dr. Jared Shatkin, and our special guest, Bills and Steelers alum, Arthur Moats. Now, from the Shatkin Sports Network studios in Amherst, here are your hosts, Rich Gaenzler and Jared Shatkin.
Welcome to the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. Rich Gaenzler, Jared Shatkin, lots going on the show. Don't cross the Moats. Arthur Moats, former Bill and Steeler, who does radio and TV for the Steelers, is going to be on in our second segment. We'll go around with the Mafia in the third and talk about, of course, the playoff game Sunday at Highmark in our final segment. But first, we need to go around the water cooler. Okay, so let's talk Bills-Dolphins.
Right.
I heard somebody on the radio this week say the Bills scored a legit 7 points offensively, right? The Sherfield touchdown goes off a guy's helmet. It's fluky. He makes a circus catch. You get the punt return from Hardy, and then the other touchdown, obviously, to Knox. All that being said, they had terrific offensive output that just didn't end well, right?
It seems kind of fluky. It's almost like what happened in that Eagles game when we had 500 yards of offense and still lost the game. It only happens to the Bills when they keep a game like that close, because I don't think that there was any point in that game where I felt like Miami was outplaying us.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about what happened. Obviously, the interceptions, right? The one with the Gabe Davis, it looked like how many times have we seen that this year with Gabe going one way and the throw going the other? Obviously, the other one where Gabe trips over his own feet. Might have actually caught that ball. Not likely, but maybe. And then Josh's fumble, and then all the different things that happened. Ty Johnson's play at the end of the first half. The overthrow to Diggs that a lot of people aren't talking about, but that's another touchdown, probably.
Yeah.
And then, of course, James Cook with another drop.
It's been the whole year we've had these issues where it's just miscues. The Bills only beat the Bills, right? So we're down 14-7 at half, and we should have been up 21-7. These guys just kind of got to button it up and focus a little more in the playoffs, and the turnover just has to slow down a little bit. I'm not trying to take Josh out of his game. If he throws an interception because he's trying to fit in a tight window, yes, but the miscommunication interceptions, the fumbles when there's a guy running straight at you, these are things that are going to cost you eventually.
Think about offensive game plan, right? For a lot of weeks since Brady took over, it's been, well, we're going to be balanced and run, right? But 13 for 36 for Cook. I think Fournette had 5 carries. I mean, they really weren't balanced. This was more of a pass game offensively, and maybe the first time we've really seen them sort of erupt like they did. Diggs back in the fold, had a really nice game. Kincaid was phenomenal. Shakir was great, again over 100 yards.
And that's kind of the game I've been calling for a while here is James Cook's a great player. I just think sometimes when you try to run the ball too much, it slows down the rhythm that you can get on offensively when you have a guy like Josh Allen. When you let him be the major weapon in the run game, I think it opens up a lot for us because, first of all, you got that extra blocker now, and when you have Josh run, he can see the field right, and then just him scrambling and making off-script plays, he's the most dangerous guy in the league. So the plays he made, they're jaw-dropping, some of these plays he's making. He's going on 3rd and 13, and he's going through Christian Wilkins and then 2 linebackers, and he's just pushing the pile on almost, this guy, you just got to let him play. We're going into the playoffs. We have arguably the best player in the playoffs. This is when you give him the keys and you let him take you to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, for sure. Defensively, again, depth. We'll talk about depth throughout the show. Dane Jackson, look, the first play he was in, he gave up a fairly decent pickup by Cedric Wilson on a play, and I watched that, and I said, man, we got to play more man and not zone. And of course, Dane Jackson goes on and makes some terrific plays down the stretch. Balen Spector, great. And how about Taylor Rapp? Taylor Rapp arguably made the block that sprung Hardy on the punt return.
Right.
And then he has a great defensive breakup right before his interception to end the game.
That was on Tyreek Hill. I think the breakup before that play was a better play by Taylor Rapp than the interception, because Tyreek Hill ran a really good route. They were both post corners, but Tyreek Hill had him beat a little bit, and he comes up and he sells out and he makes a really good defensive play. And then it's the other play is Chase Claypool, a guy who's run a terrible route, and Rapp sees it and gets it. But we're talking about a guy like Dane Jackson. I remember another game where he stepped in and played phenomenal. It was that Bengals game, and he held Jamar Chase down. And yeah, he got in the game. He was a little cold this week. I could tell. It's just, he hasn't played in a while. Douglas has been taking all the reps. But as soon as he settled in, he became the guy that we've known to see for the last 4 years. And then Baylor Spector, I thought we were going to see Dorian Williams go, and he showed up in some big moments. So that, I think, speaks volumes to the coaching staff in Buffalo, because they're getting guys ready who don't think they're going to be ready to play, and they're stepping in and they're playing like everyday starters.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Mike Tirico set him up perfectly. He said, here's a kid that started 50-some-odd games for Clemson, was an absolute stud. Big play guys in big games show up, and that's exactly what he did. He's been in a lot of big games. Now he just needed the opportunity. Here he is, and arguably the biggest game of the year, and plays very, very well. So we'll get to more of that as we talk more about the Bills when we get to the Steelers in the final segment. But a guy who played for both teams, good friend Arthur Moats, joins us next as we continue with the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show.
Hi, I'm Dr. Todd Shatkin here with Hall of Fame running back Thurman Thomas.
My family and I have been coming to Dr. Shatkin's dental office for years. The office is beautiful and the staff is outstanding.
Thanks, Thurman. It's been an honor for me to take care of you and your family.
For a Hall of Fame smile, go where the pros go. Dr. Todd Shatkin at the Aesthetic Associates Center.
Call today for a free consultation, 839-1700.
I am so happy with my experience that I had at iSmile Spas today. Got my teeth professionally whitened. I have months of results in less than an hour. No pain, seriously not even a sting. They're not sensitive. You leave with a kit to continue your whitening. Absolutely incredible. I'm so happy I ever did this. I can't stop smiling.
Western New York. Smile again with confidence. Call 43-SMILE today.
All right, one of my favorite Bills of all time. And he had a great nickname, and it's appropriate because of his actual birth name, clearly. Arthur, don't cross the Moats, joins us on the show. We were really tight back in the day when he was in Buffalo, and of course he went from there to Pittsburgh and ended up his career in Arizona, and now doing tons of stuff with Steelers stuff. I know now, Art, were you doing radio and TV for a while?
Yeah. So I still do. Yes, I still do radio and TV for the team, while also doing some YouTube stuff as well as my, independent self also. But yeah, a lot of fun with the content, man. But you one of the guys that got me into this thing, man. When I think back to my time in Buffalo, always a blast being on with the Bulls. Come on now.
Yeah, you guys were a fun group for sure, and you were the leader of the pack, man. You were like the happiest, smiliest, like everything could be awful, and yet you weren't glass half full, man. You were like glass like 90% full, like regardless of how bad. As
long as we're alive, it's a great day, baby. That's how I look at it, man. We woke up, let's go.
All right, well, let's talk about the Steelers. Obviously, you're really close with them, and I want you to plug all your multimedia stuff when we wrap this up, so people can look you up. Mm-hmm. But obviously, it's so crazy the parallels between the Steelers and the Bills in terms of. I'll start with the offensive coordinator, obviously. So Dorsey gets run. Brady gets hired here, moves up. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Matt Canada gets run in Pittsburgh for, is it Eddie Faulkner?
Yeah, Eddie Faulkner took over as the interim OC, but then Mike Sullivan took over as the play caller. So they kind of split the duties between those two guys.
So talk about them, and because we know how the Bills' offense has looked different and changed since Joe Brady took over here. But talk about why it looks like the Steelers' offense is changed and better. And you can argue, we'll talk quarterback in a second. But why is it that they're so much different and better with their new, we'll call it duo, running the offense?
Yeah, so I'll put it like this, man. Very similar to the change that happened in Buffalo, right? Going from Dorsey to Brady. It wasn't necessarily the calls change, but more so the philosophy changing, right? using Josh legs a little bit more, James Cook getting more involved. So in Pittsburgh, it was a similar concept. Instead of trying to attack laterally, where we're trying to see, can you outrun this guy to the sideline? Now with the combination of Faulkner and Sullivan, it's more of a direct approach, right? They're attacking more downhill, bigger personnel groupings, right? Think more old school New England when it was Gronk, Hernandez and company up there, 2 tight end, 3 tight end sets. That's where they've shifted to a lot more now. And even with the change, it was still a little rocky, but I'm sure we'll get to it. The quarterback switching also has added a whole nother element to this offense where Steeler fans are looking at it and trying to figure out, are these 3 weeks the new norm, or is this still considered an outlier right now? And right now, we're going to find out come Sunday, man.
So down this stretch, I mean, even though it's been arguably against some bad teams, you know, we've won 1-score games, where earlier in the season that wasn't the case. So obviously, I'm mentioning everything is close. Do you see this as being a close 1-score game again?
I'll put it like this. The only way I see it being a 1-score game is if Josh gives us the bad Josh early. You know how Josh give us, And the thing with the Steelers is this. They do a great job of minimizing possessions. So they create a good amount of turnovers as is. So if you're giving them additional possessions, they're going to minimize the amount of time that offense is on the field. So that's the only reason why I can see it being a close game, is if early on there is a turnover or 2 by the Bills. I do think that would make it a 1-score game. If the Bills play clean, specifically Josh, and he doesn't do the, I'm looking for the greatest, most difficult highlight throw of all time, because he's searching it each and every week. I've realized that. That's why I love his play. I'm like, I got you now. You're just looking for that perfect, this is the most impossible throw, and you got to make it. If he doesn't do that, I think the Bills win this thing handily. Right. But if he's searching for that early on, it's going to be a close one.
It's going to be a fun game. I really anticipate it being a really hard-fought, tough game.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are lunch pail teams, right?
You think about both fan bases, die-hard, blue-collar, because this is what we live for. Whether you're talking Bills Mafia or Steelers Nation, this is what you live for. And that's why, like I said, man, I'm just so excited to be a part of both of these things. And we get a chance to see some really good football on Sunday.
And Art, come on, man. The shout song is way better than Renegade.
Oh, come on, man. 1,000%. The Bills make me wanna
jump. Before you go, please let people know where they can see everything you're doing or hear everything you're doing.
You can check me out on my website, arthurmoats.com, or on YouTube, Arthur Moats. You type it in there. Got a Steelers page, got a Bills page, got a lot of content going out there, man, across the board, though, so you can't miss me, though.
Thank you so much.
No, appreciate you again,
we'll talk
baby.
soon, man. Best to you and your crew.
Hi, this is Steve Christie. When the Bills needed a clutch kicker, they called me. When I needed a dentist to care for my family, I called the best, Dr. Todd Shatkin from the Aesthetic Associates Center. Dr. Shatkin and his team have provided us with the care that we need. Are you embarrassed to smile because of loose dentures or missing teeth? You can be you again with Shatkin Mini Dental Implants. Call Dr. Todd Shatkin today at 716-839-1700 or go to drtshatkin.com.
Are you hungry? Eat. Stabilize your loose dentures with Shatkin Mini Dental Implants.
Welcome back to the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. It's time to go inside the pocket. Now we're outside the pocket, but inside the pocket, kind of, sort of. Ooh, look at you. I like your lateral movement.
I'm not the quickest, but I make things work.
Okay, all right. Obviously, your job being the professional quarterback is to talk about the opponent quarterback. This week, it's a guy that nobody has a really huge book on, and everybody pretty much only knows him from the Myles Garrett incident, quite frankly. But the last 3 games he started, he's played pretty well. Talk about Mason Rudolph. What do you know about him, and what should the Bills be concerned of?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people thought he was going to be a first-rounder out of Oklahoma State. He looked really good at Oklahoma State, and then kind of got second-round pick for the Steelers, and kind of just was always the backup. Did all right when he went in, not great. And then this year, his last 3 games, he's played great. He's done everything they've asked of him and given Pickens a lot of chances. And that guy's kind of a freak. So whenever you can throw the ball up to him, I don't think it's a bad idea. And he's just doing it a little bit more than the rest and executing pretty well and being accurate and moving the offense better than the other 2 guys have this year.
So what do you think the quarterback coach of the OC, and those guys are new, obviously that's one of the big similarities we're talking about with the Pittsburgh matchup. They went from one OC to another, but now they have like an OC and a play caller. So now they got like 2 guys calling plays. So how do they go to this kid who's not played at all and said, here's the keys, go win?
I don't think they had much of a choice. I mean, Trubisky was struggling pretty hard, and Pickett was still hurt. So it was kind of last resort, see what happens, because I think at that point they were out of the playoffs. And first 2 games, I mean, he lit it up. I think the one game he had over 300 yards, and it's worked for them. That they kind of last resort, and they're going to try and roll with it. Although I think things are going to probably slow down a little bit this week.
All right. Well, the weather probably will have something to say about that for sure. Sam, thank you. Stay right there. All right, welcome back to the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. Sam, Steve, brand new. Steve Mendelson, first time on. What'd you do? You waited for the playoffs to get on the show?
100%.
Okay.
Finally got here.
Good man. And of course, Jared. So a lot to talk about, fellas, and we'll start with the newbie. Just one generalization for you from the Bills-Dolphins game. What was your number one take that you couldn't get out of your head while watching and then post-game?
I think for me, it was the momentum changer for the punt return. I think, when going into half, I was concerned. I think coming out, we needed something to spark this team, and I think that certainly did it. And then when you look past that, you can see, we were moving the ball quite easily, I thought. So that was my one takeaway.
Yeah, what about you, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, we moved the ball up and down the field. Josh I don't blame him for the fourth down play, the interceptions, just like a punt. Yeah. Obviously, and the first one, I think Gabe Davis kind of screwed him because
they seem to have this.
You can't really do
communication.
A triple move against cover 0 all-out blitz, and you got to just either stick your foot in the ground and go one way or the other. So it looked bad, but it is what it is. I think the only one I really blame him for big time was the fumble.
Right.
You got to at least get 3 points there, but I mean, Torrance whiffed, and the guy was coming right up the middle unblocked. So we just got to limit the turnovers, and but you live with it because he makes plays nobody else in the league can make. You look at the 3rd and 13. So I wouldn't want anybody else at quarterback, even though it's crazy sometimes. But I think he gives us the best shot in the postseason to go win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, Jared, what about you?
I think that Josh Allen, his flaws are what makes him great. The fact that he's trying to make these plays are what make him great. So, I don't think the second turnover really made too much of a difference with our team. I also agree that the only turnover that really kind of was his fault was that sack fumble. But even if it was his fault, you take Josh Allen over anybody any day of the week. I think that the momentum shifter was probably that punt return, but I also think just kind of the way we went into that second half, it seemed like they had a different plan defensively than the first half.
You mentioned that in terms of production, moving the ball down the field, but Steve, you could have argued the way the first half ended, the Bills could have gone into that locker room with their heads down because they didn't score, even though they were driving the ball like they were.
100%. I think they needed a spark, right? I think you mentioned it earlier too. When they made a mistake, I think the sidelines they were comfortable, right? I mean, you're going to pick Josh every day of the week and twice on Sunday. I think there's always a chance when we're playing in this league.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm still ticked off about it. Like I went on Twitter, I went crazy about the Ty Johnson hit because it was blatant. It was in every single replay. Neither Collinsworth or Tirico mentioned it. Yeah. It was never mentioned by one of their officials. And it was a blatant, and Johnson leaves with a concussion, which makes it even more obvious. And this is a league that's talking about protecting their players? Yeah. Really? I mean, think about that. If that call had been made right there, you got an untimed down at the half-yard line, which means what? The Bills likely score a touchdown right there in the last play of the first half. Think about that for a building block.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough as a football player because I don't know what else I could try and do to prevent a touchdown other than not lead with his head, obviously. But at the same time, that's the rule, and they didn't even mention it or call it or anything. So it would have been a tie ball game at halftime, bro.
Yeah. Talk real quickly about depth.
Yeah, I thought Balin Spector, a linebacker, and everybody's talking about Dane Jackson because, of course, he stepped up, but he kind of always does. But a guy like Balin Spector is a guy who has kind of been in the shadows the entire year, and he's hardly played any snaps. And he gets in there, and he made a lot of big stops in the run game starting in that second half. So he's a good player, and depth the whole year has been huge. You see Vandermark get in there for Dawkins on the TD drive, and they have a video of Dawkins giving him a high five on the sideline, because it's just, this is a deep team. And the fact that our defense is still number 12 in the league right now, after losing Matt Milano, after going through a midseason stretch where we had such bad defensive slumps, it just kind of shows, first of all, that we have the depth to step up, and that the coach is ready to make changes when he needs to.
So for you guys, here come the Steelers.
We talked a little bit before the show, the weather, right? That could bring some changes, right, into light. I also think when Buffalo's at its best, it's a well-balanced attack offensively. When we're running the ball, throwing the ball. When we played Dallas, I think that was our best game to date, in my opinion. I really couldn't say enough about their attack. It was right on cue for what we were hoping for all year. So if we see some of that same mix again, run, pass, I think we're going to walk out with a victory.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because the Bills have had arguably their 2 best games at home and 4 or 5 of their worst games at home. So, again, what Bills team are we going to see? I'm so torn. They're a 9.5-point favorite in this game, and for me, I would take the Steelers with the points just going on everything's analytics in 2024, going on trends. I would have the Steelers covering. I know it's a playoff game, and that's different, but
I mean, this is the exact type of team the Bills have played badly against all year, in my opinion. So I see where you're coming from, and I see that the weather could play a huge role in this game, because if the weather is good and Josh can throw the ball, I mean, not good, it's Buffalo, but if the wind's not bad and we can throw the ball a little bit, I think we can, jump on them early. But if the weather plays a role, they got 2 running backs who run very hard. And they don't pass the ball anyway, so that's not really going to change their game plan. And they have a pretty strong defense, even without T.J. Watt. They got some big-time players, but they don't have big-time players on the outside. So my hope is that the Bills do not look over this opponent, because they've been looking over opponents all year long. And this is a team that, if you look over, will come and hit you in the mouth. This is Mike Tomlin coached, hard-nosed Steelers team, and they're starting to play a lot better at the end of the season. They had big games against Seattle. I thought they played pretty well against, the Bengals, and then the Ravens they played pretty well against too. I think the Steelers are on a little bit of a hot streak right now too, so you don't want to overlook a team like this.
Let's get your predictions. First, you, Sam.
I'm going to go 31-14 Bills.
Yeah. Okay, and Steve?
I think 28-21, but I'll say this, the turnovers, right? We got to be careful with the ball, right? If we were to talk about that game last week, and we told you we were going to turn the ball over 3 times and still win that game, would you have said yes? So I think ball security is important here.
Yeah, for sure. It should be an interesting game, and 1-score game again, if Steve's right. All right, Jared and I will talk more about the Bills and the Steelers when we come back, and also give you our predictions for the game right here on the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show.
It means a lot to be able to work with my dad to continue this legacy that we have going on.
I had many implants. Once I got them, it was like the old me came back.
The changes you can make in such a short period of time in somebody's life, have somebody in the chair crying because they finally have a full set of teeth. And I think the only way to do it in that type of time period for that type of price is really the mini implant.
Mini dental implants can change your life too. Call us at 839-1700 for a free consultation.
My self-esteem wasn't where it should have been because I was really, really self-conscious about my teeth. When I walked into Shatkin Dental, I was instantly ready for the residency program. I knew that that is what I needed. I needed the discount, I needed the dentist that was gonna fix everything. My self-esteem is already getting much, much, much higher just from starting the procedures.
Call Shatkin Dental Health today at 43 Smile for quality dental care you can afford.
All right, final segment here, the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show. Rich and Jared. Bills Steelers. Bills go in around a 9.5-point favorite going into this game at home. Obviously, bad weather, low 20s they're calling for, maybe some lake effect snow and wind. I mean, perfect setup. And not like the Steelers aren't used to that kind of weather. They played in a terrible weather game against the Ravens last week. So let's talk a little bit about how so crazily similar the storylines for these teams has been, right? They both go through the offensive coordinator change at almost the same time in the year. And of course, they come off of that and they're both better. Both of their head coaches at around week 12 or 13 were getting run out of their towns, right? Despite their successes because of their struggles. And here they are the two head coaches, college teammates at William & Mary, playing against each other after a season saved on both sides. I mean, really kind of a remarkable setup for this game.
Right, and I think both of these coaches, the one thing they have in common is they have a very calm demeanor on the outside. I feel like both of these guys are positive, and they seem like they're intelligent. They're a defensive coach, and I think they're probably the only two defensive coaches that are, I guess D'Amico Ryans too, but there's not that many defensive-minded head coaches in the league anymore. And you always got to respect the system that Mike Tomlin has defensively, because he's always up there as one of the best defensive coaches in the league. So this is the type of game that they can keep it close, and it's a team that the type of team that you've seen the Bills struggle a little bit with this year. So we really got to keep our head up, and we got to have a really positive week of practice and come out with a lot of energy.
They also, I mean, obviously they have veteran leadership in the middle in Hayward, and Highsmith is a nice pass rusher too. Let's flip it over to the offense. Obviously Najee Harris has had a better year, over 1,000 yards. Warren is fantastic. He can be effective in the pass and run game. Really hard runner, a little bit smaller version of Pacheco. I liken him because a real physical guy. And then here's Rudolph with good weaponry on the outside. I mean, Pickens and Deontay Johnson are fantastic athletes.
Yeah, those are two guys who you'd love to see in Buffalo.
Yeah.
They're awesome football players. The thing is, I just don't think that they've seen a defense quite like this yet. And I think Jaylen Warren, an issue with him recently has been the fumbles, and we attack the ball. So I think offensively, they're going to have a tough time getting through the Bills defense.
Mason Rudolph, passer rating 118 in his 3 starts, over 70% complete, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He's played well. He's
Very
been a good,
efficient.
air quotes, game manager, really, in the end. Interesting stats, too. I mean, the Steelers' D, 19 points per game given up on the season. The Bills, 18 points per game. They're close. 30 takeaways for the Bills, 27 for the Steelers. They're very opportunistic without a ton of star power on that defense.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think the system is huge for them. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick, but besides that, they get TJ Watt's out. That's huge for us. That's a guy who they're 1-10 without during his career. But you know where I think we can attack is at these cornerbacks.
Yep.
I think a guy like Levi Wallace, who we've played in Buffalo, we know his limitations. We can go and attack him. So I think there's a lot of places where we can make plays, and if we can kind of stay focused and not read into the narrative that we're 9-point favorites, I think we can come out with a victory here.
Okay, so we have to get our predictions, obviously. It seems like 1-score game every week for this team. Is it going to be the same? 9.5 is not a 1-score game in terms of the spread. Do you think it's going to be a 1-score game again? Do you think the Steelers are inside that number?
I think that every time I pick the Bills to have a close game, we end up winning by 20. And I do think it's going to be a 1-score game. And I think that the game is going to be 21-14.
All right, I'm close. I'm going 23-16 Bills. They will advance. And if they do, and if things work out, it could be Patrick Mahomes in the divisional round in Kansas City.
Get him to Buffalo.
In Buffalo,
Yeah.
finally, right?
Get that guy to Buffalo, and let's see what we can do with that family dancing up on TikTok. And
Yeah,
stuff.
right on,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
on. Bad weather, bundle up if you're going to the game. Got to thank Aesthetic Associates, Dr. Todd Shatkin, Shatkin Dental Health, and of course you for watching, our great crew as well, Arthur Moats for guesting. Have a great weekend. Go Bills. We'll see you next week in the Shatkin First Down Buffalo pregame show.
In the Pocket is sponsored by Mini Dumpster Rental. Call 716-429-6362. This has been a production of the Shatkin Sports Network.